with me to talk about the latest developments is founder of the New Culture Forum, Peter Whittle. Now, the Labour Party conference is taking place and we are expecting to hear from Sir Keir Starmer at 2 o'clock today. Could this be his last as opposition leader? What would a country under Starmer as Prime Minister look like? I dread to think, Peter. How do you think it might look?
Well, you know, if the kind of cynical part of me would say the way the Tories have been behaving, not much different, actually. But, I mean, obviously, there are certain differences. You know, I think that from what I can understand, the Labour Party conference, which I have to say, been glued to, but apparently there has been very little dissent. I mean, they're obviously trying to, you know,
it's
show a completely united front. I think one thing that has struck me, what's quite interesting I saw in the Times, is that, which might go down very well, is that he's going to apparently announce on house building a whole set of new towns. If you might remember, after the Second World War, Labour actually, you know, built these new towns, Milton Keynes and Stevenage and Crawley, places like that. There is an aim, apparently, to do this again. You know, I think that when you look at the Tories and the way that they dealt with HS2, which is pretty much a complete cock-up, and then they're offering something which appears very, very forward-looking, that might appear very attractive. Same time, I'm not quite that pleased about the idea of yet more British land actually being, you know, bricked over and used for new towns. Who are going to be in these new towns? I mean, seems to me...
Should sort the old towns out first, shouldn't
exactly,
they? They're a bit of a mess.
The cities are falling apart. I mean, it's as simple as that. But with Labour, the last thing you are ever going to get is any kind of mention in any way of immigration in relation to housing.
Well, let's quickly talk about immigration, because as a sort of curtain raiser to this conference, Keir Starmer went onto the BBC, was interviewed by Laura Kuenssberg at the weekend, and he came up with this extraordinary statement. She said, "Oh, you're against the Rwanda scheme." "Oh, yeah, we're against the Rwanda scheme. It's inhuman, it's wrong, blah, 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 blah," the way they always do. So she said, well, suppose the Tories get the Rwanda scheme going, you know, that the Supreme Court given the green light and we start flying migrants to East Africa and it stops the boats. The boats stop coming. What would you keep the Rwanda scheme going? No, I wouldn't. I would get rid of the Rwanda scheme. So his policy is, if the Rwanda scheme works, when he gets into power, he's going to stop the Rwanda scheme and the boats will start coming again. That's a political incoherence on an epic scale, isn't it?
It is, but also, do you know what? I doubt that he would actually... I think he would keep the Tory, you know, position if they get through. And
don't let him off the hook at this stage.
No, I'm not. No,
that's what he's saying.
It's just pure cynicism. No, I think the far greater problem with Labour is that they are essentially an open borders party.
Yes,
simple as that.
Yeah.
You've got this issue of the boats, but then at the same time you've got net migration running at 605,000 last year, and I think over the next 2 years, they're saying it will be 1 million. You know, this is net, this is not gross.
We're actually letting in over 1 million people legally every year.
Right.
As you say, some of them leave the country, so the net influx is around about 600,000. So we're all sitting around going, oh, this illegal... But these boats coming across the channel, 48,000 last year. They're talking about 60,000 this year. What we don't talk about is the 1 million that are coming in legally. Extraordinary.
Exactly, but I don't think Labour have actually said any policy point on this at all. I mean, you know, the fact is that they are not just pro-migration, they are open borders.
Yes.
They might be keeping that quite quiet at the moment, but pretty much all the left now is. And the fact is, you say that these are country-changing numbers. You're talking about mass migration. No one is talking about, you know, being anti-migration in principle. I mean, in the sense that before Tony Blair came in '97, it was around about 50,000 net a year. I think most people would say that's reasonable, right? We're not talking about that anymore, Ken. We're talking about, like, it's getting towards 1 million, isn't it, for a year? Yeah. And, I mean, Labour have no plans on that whatsoever other than to simply welcome it.
Let's talk about Labour generally. I mean, I think that what most people are frightened about in terms of Starmer and Labour is he's been talking a moderate game, trying to distance himself from Corbynism, his hopeless, useless, catastrophic predecessor, and he's been trying to sell the nation a kind of Blairite message.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
your money's safe with us, the economy's safe with us. We're a moderate centrist party. But what many people feel is that as soon as he gets into number 10 Downing Street, the mask will be lifted and we'll see the real Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer is a lifelong dyed-in-the-wool extreme lefty. So we've already heard Rachel Reeves yesterday, the Shadow Chancellor, hinting that she'll launch tax raids on the wealthy, stop them avoiding tax. I don't know where she gets that from. It's difficult to avoid tax in this country, to say the least. And of course, we have Starmer's, shall we say, ambivalent approach to the migrant crisis, and worst of all, to the EU, who he clearly, essentially, wants to rejoin.
Yes, of course, but you missed out there, Karen. He's
Has a long list of things I want to criticise him
Does he
about.
now define? Can he now define a woman?
I don't believe he can.
No,
yet.
I think we're kind of, you know, on the fence a bit on that, aren't we? It's quite pathetic. I mean, the problem is there's an overall problem in the country, really. Is that the calibre of people who would lead us, include, you know, him or whatever, is very low. It's very, very low. So it's very much who do you choose. I would strongly say to people at the next election, whenever it is, this time next year maybe, is that they shouldn't vote for either one. I don't know that you might say, well, who do we vote for? I think we do need a new party, certainly. None of the other smaller ones are doing anything.
The point is, though, Peter, you know, everybody always says this, respect to you for saying so, but you know, we all know in the end, come ballot box day, it divides down the big party lines. So on that basis, do you think Sadiq Khan has a chance of redeeming himself to some? Does he stand an opportunity of maybe not losing the next election? Because if anyone can lose this next election, it's Keir Starmer.
Yeah, I think that what I'm going to say about the Tories is that they have got the most amazing survival instinct, right? So there are a couple of green shoots, at least in their eyes, aren't there, at the moment in the polls? There's a slight lowering.
Because they've been deliberately putting clear blue water between them and Labour. Late in life, they've realised that maybe people don't necessarily want to spend hundreds of extra pounds per month on their energy bills. They don't necessarily want to be banned from driving petrol cars or going on holiday to Spain. Late in life, he's realised that all this green claptrap maybe isn't a vote winner. So we've got that. We've got immigration policies and so on. And so he's trying to say, look, there's a very different proposition here. Vote Tory and you get a proper Tory government, vote Labour and you don't, of course. But just how much we can trust Sadiq Khan in all of this, I suppose we wait for election day. Is he doing enough?
Keir Starmer, yes.
Well, no, Sadiq Khan. Is he doing enough to offer a clear alternative to the British people that might just cash in on the fact that there are fears about Keir Starmer?
No, he's not doing, the Prime Minister is not doing enough as yet. As I said, they have got the most amazing capacity for survival. I wish they didn't have, actually. I would like to see them obliterated, the Tories, and a proper Conservative alternative put in its place. That's my position, for what it's worth. But I think that, essentially, if after 13 years they cannot get a grip either on legal migration or on illegal migration, whatever they might say now, whatever Suella Braverman might say at the conference, you know, you really have got to look at them and say, you've said it so many times, nothing is going to change. This is pure window dressing for the time that, you know, the election eventually is called. And that's what I think it is. I think you've got to take it all with a pinch of salt. To your other question, though, no, I don't think you should trust Starmer, especially on the EU. actually, especially on the EU.
Absolutely not. Let's talk about the NHS, another battleground, if you like. Remember Ed Miliband saying we've got to weaponise the NHS.
Yes.
Well, the NHS will be weaponised in the run-up to the next election. It always is. But the common ground among both of the parties will be a complete terror to do anything about the basket case that is our National Health Service. Neither of them will do what's necessary, and that is a root and branch reform from top to bottom. They won't do it because they're too busy saying our amazing NHS, we support the NHS, we won't change the NHS. Well, I wish you would.
Yes, I think with the NHS, actually, I sense a slight change in public mood there, actually.
Yeah, I agree with that. Since the COVID crisis.
There was this untouchable, it's like, what is it, Nigel Lawson called it, Britain's equivalent of a religion.
Yes.
And so you couldn't, everything was, you're going to privatise it. Now, it seems to me, people have become exhausted and exasperated with the service they get. And with each statistic that comes out, whether it's on cancer, whether it's on all of these things, basically think, wait a minute, no one's really saying anymore that they don't have enough money. So what exactly is going wrong, Yeah. So I think that there might well be changes to the NHS. It might well be, who knows, it could even happen under a Labour government, actually.
I just wish politicians, particularly politicians in government, will grow a pair and tell the NHS what to do. In the end, the boss of the NHS is a government servant, and he should do what he's told, or she. At the moment it's a bloke, but it could be a woman, of course. This is my problem. We've got these consultants on strike, we've had the doctors on strike, the nurses, the ambulance drivers, all these frontline workers. Whether or not they should be allowed to go on strike is something we should debate, if you ask me, because when they go on strike, people die. However, you've got this 200 billion quid a year the NHS gets, and clearly, if it organised its finances correctly, it would be able to pay doctors and consultants and nurses pretty much what they want. Instead, was it 2 weeks ago, we learnt once again they're advertising for 244 diversity officers.
Exactly.
This organisation is incorrigible. It's incorrigible.
It's extraordinary. The other thing as well is, I think, you mentioned there Ed Miliband talking about it should be weaponised. Well, they've sort of weaponised themselves in a way. I mean, they're a much more political organisation than they ever used to be. I mean, and for example, with the doctors, the junior doctors strike, the British Medical Association, which is their kind of union, if you like, has been very much taken over.
It is their union. It's a two-bit union, just calls itself a posh name.
Yes, exactly.
That's all it is.
So I think that, exactly, but I do think that people are feeling maybe that it's not all just about money. You can't just throw money at it. I think that penny is dropping, I think.